This is a Flipping Junkie podcast, episode 51. Welcome to the Flipping Junkie podcast. My name is Danny Johnson, former software developer turned house flipper, flipping hundreds of houses. Each week, we bring you interviews, strategies, stories, and motivation to help you get started flipping houses and on your way to becoming your own boss and achieving financial freedom. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's get to it. Hey, Justin, thanks for being on the show again.
Hey, Danny, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I think this is the third time, isn't it?
Woohoo! I think so, man.
Yeah, third episode with Justin Williams. And today, we talk a lot on this show about generating leads, finding leads and generating more deals and making money and all that kind of stuff, specifics. But I want to talk with Justin today about sort of having an epiphany, for people to have a paradigm shift in their thinking about finding deals. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, and just a little bit of a background story about Justin if you haven't heard this already before. But I guess it's been almost 2 years since I talked to Justin on the phone, and we were talking about his systems and everything he set up for his house flipping business. And after I got off the phone, like 2 minutes later, I'm driving and I'm just my brain's going crazy. And, I didn't even think more than a couple seconds before I just hit the redial. And I called him back up and said, hey, can I fly out there and hang out with you? I need a whole day to spend with you, just hang out. And he was like, sure, man, come on out. So I got plane tickets and flew out there and hung out with Justin. And eye-opening experience, really showed me a lot of stuff. So that's just a little background story of Justin and my relationship. But he's taught me a lot in growing the business. A lot of people flip houses and they're happy with doing 10, 20 deals a year is a good amount of deals. And, Justin specializes in setting up systems and processes to where you can scale that 50, 100 deals a year. And Justin, you did over 100 deals this year, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're on track to do so. The year's still not up, but we're on track to do over 100 deals again. And Andy, my partner, that guy, he does a lot of wholesale deals, but they're doing over 20 deals a month, wholesale deals. They're just crushing it. It's fun. Systems are very fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I was always hung up on, right, was I could find people to do some of the marketing and do some of that stuff, to set that up and have them continuously be consistent about doing that. But where I was always hung up was I had a hard time having faith that I'd find somebody to go and be able to, because I market mostly to motivated sellers, and I go to people's houses and I make them offers to buy their house directly from them. And I had a hard time envisioning having somebody that would do as good of a job as I did, or I felt I did, at doing that. And Justin was always telling me, you will find somebody better. Stop thinking that you're the only person that can do this, because there's people that'll do it better than you. Yep. And just kind of drilled that in.
Don't be so cocky, Danny.
Right. I'm still better. No, I'm just kidding. But I have, found somebody on and have them on my team now. And, it's just been great. I spend, a lot more time on the software side of things because I've set up these processes and systems on the flipping side of things. And as much as 2.5 years ago, I was spending a lot more trying to get the software stuff going and still doing the flipping, but my flipping business suffered because I didn't have the processes and the people. And that's why I went and hung out with Justin, because I just wanted to be able to have that going just like he did, and have the time to focus a little bit more as I need to get the software stuff going with Lead Propeller and REImobile. But I'm going to stop talking. I feel like I've talked.
This is great. I mean, talk about major, massive action taker, right? You talked to me, you felt like I got to learn from this guy. You were on a plane, you called me back within minutes. And I was like, is this for real? Okay, sounds good. And you were on a plane, within days, and you were at my house. And we were able to go through these things. And I remember, telling you, exactly what you're saying. You're like, well, no one can do it as good as I can. I said, Danny, quit being so full of yourself. And you still, even on your face, you were like, I could tell you're like, I'm not so sure about this. But look at you now, and you've done it. Even a few minutes before this call, we were talking about it. and hadn't had a chance to catch up. And you're like, oh yeah, I don't even look at these houses anymore. I'm not that involved, and I'm able to focus on this other passion that I have and doing more of the things I love because I put those systems in place that will work for me.
Right.
So that's awesome, man. Super happy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think some people may be struggling with making that change themselves as part of the problem struggle that I had with bringing on anybody for anything is you feel like you've got to give all that effort and time up front to set them up, to get them doing the things properly. And I think some people hesitate, and I know I hesitated because of that.
Yeah.
But,
so here's the deal. Like, most people focus way too much on finding deals, finding contractors, finding the money. And don't get me wrong. Like, I get it. Yeah, those things are important. We got to figure those things out. But if you have a paradigm shift, our brains are, we can only focus on so much at a time. So if you shift that to focusing on creating a process for these three things, okay, write these down. If you create a process for generating leads, and I'm talking about generating leads on a regular basis. I'm not talking about you waking up in the morning, looking on the MLS. If you're sick, that process stops, and going out. And no, I'm talking about a process. If you do not have a process in place that brings leads to you every single day, then in my opinion, you're going to struggle. So you got to have
first one, generating leads on a regular basis. Let's go through the three real quick and then go back and do emphasis so that we don't get lose track. So
number 2 is then you have to have a process in place for converting those leads. I know a lot of people that have figured out how to generate leads, but their conversion process it sucks. And they are either spending money, throwing money away, or they're like breaking even. And that's not a way to run a business if you want to pay your bills. Breaking even does not work. 2 years ago, it must have been probably 2.5 years ago, a little bit before you came down. I met with this girl at a mastermind meeting that we had, and she's like, okay, confession time. I've been in this business for about 18 months. I started off doing okay, but for the last 6 months, I haven't made any money, and I'm going to have to go back to my job pretty soon. And we just broke down her process, and it was so interesting because she had spent $20,000 in the last 6 months. We had spent $20,000 in the last 6 months. The reason why back then we didn't spend as much money as we are now was because we were mainly buying from wholesalers and on the MLS and things like that, right? But we had still spent the exact same amount of money as she had. We made $140,000 off of that $20,000 because I broke it down. I had my acquisitions manager there. We had our numbers, and she made 20. She got one deal and she made 20. I was like, okay, yeah, clearly you're doing something wrong. We are in the same market. We're marketing about, the way we were marketing was pretty similar, but yet we had 7x'd our investment.
Right.
And she was breaking even. So we went through and we broke it down, and it just came down to she didn't have a very good lead conversion process in place. So these things are important. I mean, it's the difference between my marketing coach helped me have this huge epiphany with his marketing business. His only goal is to break even when he's marketing. If he can spend a couple $1,000s and make a couple $1,000s, it helps him grow his base, right? His customer base.
Right, because his customer lifetime value is higher than that.
Exactly.
Right?
So if he can make that like in day one, it's like free money. He said, that is $1 million business. I can make all the money I want. He calls it a break-even funnel. Okay, so real estate is a little bit different. I mean, it's not very often that the same seller is going to sell you multiple houses, correct? So your goal in real estate is if you can make at least twice as much in profit on each deal as you spend to acquire that deal, which acquiring the deal includes the cost of lead generation plus your cost to convert the lead. So if your lead generation plus your lead conversion cost is less than the profit per deal. And I'm talking about wholesaling here just because the numbers are easier. Flipping, similar idea, but you want to make significantly more than just 2 times, right? So if you can have a process in place that will make you twice as much money as it costs to spend, that's $1 million business. Now it's just a matter of pouring more leads into the funnel, if you will, into the machine, and increasing your profit per deal. Because then once you get to the point where you're making 4, 5, 6 times whatever you spend, then that is $1 million business. I mean, Danny, if I were to give you $2,000 for every $1,000 you gave me,
how many times can we do that?
Yeah. You would sit, we
Yeah.
would sit here all day, and that's all you would do, and it
Let's
would make
let's
you.
do that sometime, just as an example.
We should. That would be a
Like,
lot of fun. But that's really all business is. That's all real. And to me, real estate investing is a business. That's business first. Like my main passion is business, the systems, the processes. Real estate just happens to be a great way to make a lot of money. The numbers are really big, so why not go that route? Correct. But that's the way most real estate investors do not think that way. They get so hung up on, like, I know people who haven't even made their first offer, haven't even put together a process for generating leads, and they're so hung up on, what if I don't find the right contractor? What color of paint should I use? And like all this stuff, or where do I get the money? And like, okay, it's good to be aware of those things, that will come, but man, you don't even have a lead generation system. You don't even have a process for generating leads or converting those leads. Like, focus on that. If you get those two things down, and then you just focus on increasing your profit on each deal, boom. I mean, then you have the life you want, and you just keep growing it as you go. That is true freedom. You're out of the rat race. Life is good, and then you're able to go and create a software company like Danny, or something more fun.
more fun. No, that's pretty fun. No, but okay, so we talked about the generating leads regular basis, and we'll go back and do some expanding on those. And number 2 was the converting those leads. And what's the third thing to focus on?
The third one is you want to focus on increasing your profit per deal.
Oh, that's okay.
So the number one goal, it's like a little equation. I call it CPD is less than PPD. Otherwise, your cost per deal is less than your profit per deal. And the cost of the deal is by adding up your lead generation cost and your lead conversion cost. So lead generation cost is obvious. It's whatever you're spending on internet marketing, direct mail, bandit signs. Maybe you're paying someone to make offers for you on the MLS, whatever that might be. And then the lead conversion is either the cost of your own time if you're the one focusing on converting those leads yourself, or paying someone to help sift through those leads. Paying someone to maybe go out and close those leads for you. You know, maybe you have someone that you pay 15% of the gross profit of each deal, right? So you want to take those costs into consideration. Now, I'm okay. Sure, at the beginning, I've heard you say this before, Danny, like, if you are brand spanking new, sure, get out there, grind it out, like, go generate some leads, go network, make offers, get things happening, you know. But very quickly, if you do not, within like a few months, start to transition into having some of these things done for you, I'm telling you, I've seen it time and time again, you will fizzle out, you will burn out, the market will have changed, your lead generation machine will stop because you're over here working on this part, and you'll just fizzle out and die, and later on you'll be like, what happened to the market? Or you won't be able to...
And that's the typical, even if they don't fizzle out, what typically happens with most people is they get into this a one-man operation or two. In my case, my wife, works with me on it. And in the beginning, it was always a cycle, right? So we had to switch hats all the time.
Yep.
And so we would be in lead generation mode. We'd start, doing marketing, getting deals. Once we got several deals, we'd have to start fixing those up and getting them ready for sale, sell the houses. And, during all that, we stopped marketing because we were busy getting the houses fixed up and selling them. And, then the leads dried up. So we had to wait again. There's a lag time.
Yes.
And it's just always up and down cycles of this stuff.
You need to learn how to be a machine operator, not be the machine, right? If you're in the trenches, you don't see the bird's eye view. You don't see what's going on around you. You might be getting bombed and you don't even know it, right? So if you're a machine operator instead of the machine yourself, you're going to be able to fix the machine or tell the mechanic, hey, fix this machine. This is off a little bit right here. Our lead generation and lead conversion is off a little bit. We're not converting as many leads. So what do we need to fix here? Let's improve. We have these 2 lead generation processes set up. This one's not as good. How can we improve this? And then you're always staying ahead of the game. You're moving with the cheese. I can name investor after investor after investor who at one time was killing it, and now they're completely irrelevant. I won't even talk to them because they bring me down, and they get things in my head. I'm like, oh, maybe they're right. I mean, not anymore, but I remember 3 years ago, there's this guy who, one of the most successful investors I know of, was one of my inspirations. And then after a couple of years, I started getting around him because all he knew how to do was trust E-cells. I'd start to get around him, and he's just talking about there's no deals in the market and this and that and all these things. And it's like, I got to get away from you, because he didn't have these things in place. He wasn't able to adapt and adjust. So.
Yeah, and that's part of, and it's sort of a shameless plug here, but I mean, that's one of the reasons why, I started creating that software, and I was using all this software for myself, before, and it just became something that so many people wanted to use as well. So it just made it into the thing. But REImobile, like the database system, one of the specific things that was always being developed in there is keeping track of those cost per lead, cost per deal. Yes. So we can always see where we're at on all that stuff. And you make those adjustments based on real numbers, on real data, so that you're making wise decisions.
That is so huge. I mean, I see so many investors, they get out there, they either make an offer or two, or they send out a couple hundred letters, and it's like they spent, $50 on postcards or $100 on letters, a couple $100 on letters, and they're like, I didn't get a deal, I wasted money. And it's like, and so they quit, and I'm like, okay, look, I get it. Like, we teach you how to invest without spending a lot of money. That means you don't have to spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy the house. But there is a little bit of cost that goes into the marketing, or first you're kind of solopreneur doing it on your own, but eventually you want to build that business. But real estate is amazing because you can literally spend a few $1,000s, where I hear other people that spend like $250,000, and then they put it, it's like you see it on Shark Tank all the time,
like
right?
Restaurants and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's like they lose it all. I mean, they invent this thing and they think it's going to be amazing, and then no one buys it. It's like game over, Like real estate, you can spend a few $1,000s. Now, it doesn't have to be your money, and that's a whole other thing. I mean, you can get, if you understand ROIs and stuff, there are so many people that will invest in you and get you that money or partner with you or whatever. If you find, there's always a way, right? But you can spend literally a couple $1,000s to make $20,000. And then once you have that dialed in, okay, let's say you just spend half of that. You spend now 20 to make, what would that be? 20 to make like 100, and now you have 100. I mean, it's simple math, right?
Mm-hmm, right?
Now you have 100, spend half of that, spend 50 to make a couple, it just keeps growing and growing. So yeah, it's a fun thing, but your only goal, people focus too much on the small things and they get frustrated. It's like, it's been a month or two and I haven't made my $1 million. It's like, no, your only focus at first is to have the machine that is making more money than you're spending. Once you have that, you have $1 million business. It's just a matter of increasing your profit per deal and putting more leads in the funnel. But you can't do that when you're in the trenches, right? So It's like...
Yeah, and part of the... we had talked about the generating leads on a regular basis, setting up the systems. And, like one simple example of that, because I know a lot of people will ask, well, how do I generate the leads? That's always the question. And we've been doing this series in the Flippy Junkie podcast. Awesome. We're talking about marketing, direct mail. We're going to get into online marketing here shortly. But we're doing all these different ones, and we're right in the middle of it here with this episode. And I think it's perfect because it's showing them what to focus on with these systems and then to follow these three things. But as a specific example of generating leads and building a system or a process around it, like for bandit signs. Well, I mean, what do you think?
Sure, yeah. I mean, this is something we kind of talked about before. So my brother, for example, a couple of years ago was dead broke. He was at a dead-end insurance job, making about $1,000 a month, just got married, had a baby on the way, had nothing. He calls me up. He's like, hey, bro, I want to get into real estate. I want to flip and wholesale houses. Can you teach me? And I'll be honest, I was scared. Because I knew that his rope was short, and he had a family, and I know that some people don't go out and make it happen. So I tried to talk him out of it, but he would not. I could not talk him out of it. And he's like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it happen. It took him 90 days, and those were 90 stressful days for both of us, of him doing all the things I told him to do. And finally, on day 91, he got his first deal. I bought it for him. He made $15,000, changed his life. From there, his goal was to start to create a process. And what he did is that first deal he got from a bandit sign. And at first it felt like he was wasting his time because he's like out there putting out the bandit signs. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, I'm like a bandit, literally. I feel like a whatever he felt like doing all this work. But when we added it up and he's like, I really only put out few hundred bandit signs, which felt like a ton. Can you imagine putting all those out by yourself and not getting a deal after 90 days and but doing multiple things at a time. So we're like, okay, when you break it down, what did that you made $15,000. What did that cost you? It's like, wow, that cost me like $900. You know, actually at the time he wasn't paying anyone to do it. So I think it cost him like $500. It was crazy, ridiculous how much it cost him. We're like, okay, well, what would that have cost you if you had to pay someone else to put those signs up? And like, maybe it would have cost like $1,000, $1,200. And so that's what he set out to do. So he started at first paying people to put them up. He got another deal or two, and he realized, oh my gosh, I'm spending like $1,000 to $1,500 to make around $10,000 or more. Those are good numbers. You have that, there's your machine, right? Like, there's the beginning of your money making machine. But it's even better. It's not just 1 to 2. It was like 1 to 5 or something like that. So, but then he thought, okay, now I have to take some of these calls myself and things like that. He's like, how can I systematize this process? So he set up a system with 3 different people where they put out all the signs. And these were guys that they wanted to get into real estate, but they didn't know a lot about it. And just like him struggling to get deals, they were struggling to get deals. So there's a huge win-win here. All they had to do was put the signs up, screen the calls, so he didn't have to talk to all the people that were, whatever. And they would set up an appointment for him with only motivated sellers. So I remember I went to go visit him one time, and I saw his bank account. I'm like, oh my gosh, like he was making over $50,000 a month consistently, and he wasn't getting any calls. And I was like, okay, how are you doing this? We were going mountain biking. I was with him for about 5 hours, did not get one call. And so he told me. And this is what he was doing. You know, he had these guys putting out these bandit signs. He figured out his cost per deal, and they would split the cost of the marketing. And then the bandit sign guys putting out the bandit signs would take the calls. So their job wasn't that hard either. They would set up the appointment for him. And all he was doing was going on a few appointments every week, and he would convert 1 out of 4 of those into a deal. And his business blew up, and it was pretty automated. It was pretty cool. So he was a part of that overall process, but he was only a part of one little part of it, right? And now he's getting to the point where he doesn't want to be a part of any of it, right?
Yeah, it's nice. And people, I think, struggle with, I'm glad that you explained it in the way you did, because it's perfect. I mean, with the bandit signs, because that's exactly what you should be aiming to do with all this marketing.
Yeah. And exactly, my goal is not to say, like, everyone go out and do bandit signs. That's just one example. And,
And disclaimer too, most places those are illegal, and it's at your own risk and all that kind of stuff. So check with your local thing. Sometimes you can buy permits for them, stuff like that, but just be aware of that. Yeah,
and anyway, we won't get into it, but we teach people how to never let anybody know. But there are great ways for tracking exactly where people are putting. The goal is, like, for example, in our company, and our students, like, we have this process, like, dialed down to the T. Stephen did a training on exactly what he does, exactly what signs he buys, where he puts them, how he goes about them, how he doesn't get, caught by the bandit sign police, like everything, like every little detail. And that is the beauty. That's what you want. And that's why mastermind groups are so powerful. And surrounding yourself with people that are succeeding is so powerful, because they can tell you exactly what to do. You don't have to, like, try to figure it out on your own. They tell you to the detail.
Right.
And that's kind of what we focus on. So.
Awesome. So that's generating leads consistently. You can do the same thing with direct mail, getting direct mail set up to where you've got other people making sure that you're generating these lists on a timely basis, and then also mailing them on, set intervals, typically 30, 45 days, etc. And just getting all those dialed in. And most of this stuff is not rocket science. I mean, you have to take a leap of faith at first, because you're going to put money in, but know that most of the successful investors out there have put money in and made more on the backside of it.
Absolutely. People are happy to make, a few percent return, in like the stock market. Some people have their money in the bank for 0.5%. You got CDs that are 2 to 3. And, private money lenders are good to make 10, maybe 12. But if you think about it, what is your ROI if you spend $2,000 to make $10,000? Is that what, 500%? 2,000 make 10.
I'm not even going to try the math.
Yeah, it's like that's a 500% return, and that's a one-time return. If you're wholesaling and you spend that money, and a month later you're closing on those deals, well, okay, this is gonna get crazy here, right? Like, so that is a 500% return annualized times 12. Okay, I'm just throwing this out, right? Like, that is a 6,000% return. I mean,
yeah,
it's like not even like worth, like, it's just so insane the returns you can make. Yet people will put hundreds of thousands of dollars into a volatile stock market or a CD or something like that. It's like, I hear some people say like, oh, I don't want to like get in. Okay, that's not a good example, but people don't want to invest. They want to invest in other businesses because that's what you're doing when you invest in the stock market. But invest in yourself a little bit. And if you just take a few $1,000s and invest it in yourself, the returns that you can get are exponentially larger. And if you learn from the right people, so you're not throwing that money away, and you're learning the right processes for making sure you're converting those leads, it's huge. It's life-changing. Now, if you understand these returns I'm talking about, let's say that you literally like don't have any money at all. And typically I suggest, sure, get out there, grind it out, get your first deal, get a little money, and then you can invest. But what if you partnered up with someone who had a lot of money? You say, hey, look, I'm willing to grind it out. You have some capital. Let's do some deals together. We'll split the profit. Dude, I would do that. Maybe that'll be my next evolution, right? Maybe in a couple years from now, I'll just partner up with hungry investors that I can give them a little bit of capital, make sure they know what they're doing, of course, give them a little bit of capital and have them go and make thousands of % returns on that capital.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's better than any other investment out there. So there's always a way, always find a way. I see so many people, yeah, but I this, yeah, but that. It's like, get over it. Like, figure out a way to get it done. There's two kinds of people. One that finds a way to make things happen and one that doesn't. There's always a way to make it happen.
Yeah, it's your yeah butters.
Oh, yeah, butters, man. Can't stand but it's like, dude, make it happen. I'm not that smart. Like, I got an 18 on my ACT. The only reason I got accepted to BYU is because I had a football scholarship. Like, but that is the lowest you can get to even be allowed to be in. Like, I mean, it was bad, right? Like, I have ADD, I lose focus, like, I'm slow to learn things, I really am. But I'm good at copying people. So I see what other successful people have done. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've taken that and it's been able to help me help other people. Yeah,
it's awesome. Yeah, it's always important to see, because some people do see successful people and get jealous or think, oh, well, what did they do to get that success? They must have taken advantage of people. And then the other side of it is, the real way to look at it, the better way to look at it is they did it, so can I. And that's what you're basically saying is, you see these people that have done these things and you just thought, man, I need to find out how they did it so I can do it too.
Yep. If you look at people who are successful and you look down on them in any way, which I think a lot of times a lot of people do, you'll never get there. You are mentally planting the seeds in your head. There's a great book by, I think it's T. Harv Eker, something, The Millionaire Mind.
Right, yeah.
I forget it. Anyway, look it up.
That's it.
Yeah, something like that. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And you have got to look at people who have success, and not that they're any better or anything like that. It's not what I'm saying, but recognize that as, that's pretty cool, right? Like, look up to them. Don't look down to that if you want to achieve that. No, don't get me wrong. There are some crooked people out there. But for the most part, most of the successful entrepreneurs that I know, they're good people. They're giving. They've now come to that place in their life where they have enough for themselves, and they're able to give back to other people in more ways than most people are, because they've achieved those basic needs that we all have, right? So, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we talked about the generating leads, regular basis, converting those leads is number 2, where you're doing more of the conversion of the leads that you do get so that you maximize. Did we cover more of that in detail?
Sure. I mean, okay, so for example, I've got a friend that I've known for years, and we were talking, and he was just talking about his long-term follow-up system to me. And extended follow-up system. So this is like after the initial. First of all, if you're not following up with your leads, if you don't have a process for following up with your leads in the first 30 to 60 days, like consistently, you are throwing money away for sure. But he talked about how he has his extended follow-up system in place that helped him. That's where he got a third of his deals from last year. And we're not talking basic follow-up. Like, we're talking extended automated follow-up that is done without his involvement. Deals that most investors have. These are the deals that are like dead deals thrown in the garbage. We're not going to make any money from these. Squeeze the juice out of them. They're done. A third of them. So he made $1 million last year, and a third of that came from his extended follow-up system. And most investors, they don't have this in place. But if you have this in place, what is that going to do for your lead generation? I mean, it allows, they're saying in marketing that he who can spend the most money wins, right? And the goal isn't to spend the most money, but if you're making more in the back end, your ability to spend more, if you're converting those leads and you're making more on each deal, your ability to spend more increases. McDonald's, they don't make much money from people buying hamburgers. I don't know if you know this or not, but they literally would go bankrupt if people only bought hamburgers. The cost that it costs you to go through their drive-through, which hopefully not too many of you are going through the drive-through, but it's a good example. I forget what it is. It's like $1 something to get people to go through the drive-through.
Oh, I've seen that, yeah.
So literally, they're making like pennies each per. That's not like the way to run a business. But when you buy a fry and a Coke, the amount of money that they make increases by 8 times. 8 times. That's where they're making all their money. Okay. So your goal is to do the same thing. If you currently have a process that you're barely breaking even, but you're not doing a very good job with lead conversion, and you haven't maximized your profit per deal, dude, you are sitting on $1 million business. You just need to increase those 2 things, and then that will allow the machine to flow better, so you can, do the whole thing. You put money in, you get more money out. That's the goal.
Right. Awesome. And then increasing profit.
Increasing profit per deal.
How do we increase this profit?
Here's another, and once again, there's multiple ways to do this. But go back to the story about my brother. I was buying houses from him. For a while, I bought a few houses. And all of a sudden, one day, he stopped selling houses to me. And I was like, that's strange. Like, I know he's buying more houses than ever. Why isn't he selling them to me anymore? Why isn't he calling me? Why am I hearing from him?
It's because you forgot about his birthday.
I forgot about his birthday, and he was upset. So I called him up, and I was, hey, why? I just had it was like a heart-to-heart talk. It was kind of awkward. I was like, why aren't you selling me any more houses? And he's like, well, I'm sorry, but you just don't pay enough. And I was like, what are you, I was insulted, but I was also intrigued. I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, that same deal that I made $15,000 from you, if I were to sell that today, I would make $25,000. And so what he had done was, and it doesn't sound like rocket science, right? But he had created this system that automatically helped him grow his cash buyers pool. And I was a great buyer. I wasn't like this cheap buyer. It wasn't just I just found a better buyer. It was like he now had this list of buyers, cash buyers, that whenever he would send that out, it really maximized his profit per deal, which allowed him to make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 more on every single deal he did. And not only that, but it allowed him to buy more houses, because deals before that didn't make sense suddenly now made sense.
Right.
He could maximize those as well. Maybe he wasn't making $15,000 on them, but he could make 4 or 5 on deals that he before couldn't make anything. And so it was crazy. After, and then my business partner, Andy McFarland, I remember him telling me about I'm kind of going back here to the lead conversion, the training that he did, a basic training on creative financing. I'm not a very smart guy. I'm not super talented with creative financing, but a 4-hour-long training that he did for his team allowed them to increase their conversions by 15 to 20%, because his team now went out there, and rather than just swinging the cash hammer,
yeah,
they had a plan B. Now, this was very simple. He created a process for it so his team could all very easily understand it. I mean, he has like 3 acquisitions people. So they can now go out and their conversions increased by 20%. So I just look at all these things. I'm like, okay, I need this thing that helped increase by 20%. Steven's now getting an extra 50% to 100% on each deal. Doug, a third of his deals come from his automatic follow-up system. So I just went through and came up with all these different things that different people do and that we either are doing or are starting to implement in our business. And I came up with even more that not even we're doing, but if we did, would be killing it. I mean, once you get to, I don't want to say break even, but let's say like a 4 times ratio, 3 to 4 times. You know, if you're making $3,000 to $4,000 for every $1,000 you spend, you can do one of 2 things. You can either just blow it up and you don't have to really improve anything other than put more leads in the pipeline or expand your area. And you have, boom, tons of money, right? You're $1 million business, multi-million-dollar business. Or you can focus on increasing the profit per deal, increasing your conversions. It's just a really fun way to look at it. I mean, people just need to look at this business differently. As real estate investors, like, typically, like, real estate investors suck at being business owners. They just do. It's such a low barrier to entry, which is awesome. Yeah. That's why so many people do it and so many people are able to do it. But you go to these real estate investment clubs and you hear people, I can't find any deals. Like, it's like, what are you, like, businesses are not ran that way. Like, if you think about any business, they don't say, oh, I just can't find any customers. I'm sitting here and I'm walking around and I can't. No. They create a process to get leads. They have a process to convert those leads. And then they're constantly focusing on their margin. How can they increase their profit on every transaction? You do those things. That's why businesses are either like multi-million or billion-dollar businesses, or they fail. Because either the machine works or it doesn't. So you've got to make sure your machine works, grow it, keep an eye on it, make sure it keeps working, continue to grow that. And that's all this business is, really. It's arbitrage. It's beautiful. I love it.
Okay. No, yeah, it's true. I mean, most people don't focus on the business side of it and just focus on the individual duties that you have as you get going. And everybody, like you said before, should start out with, like learning what the process should be so that you can perfect the process. But as quick as you can, have somebody come in there and take care of that for you. But
yeah, and I mean, I know most things, a lot of things you should do on your own. But you don't have to do everything on your own. Like, I've never fixed up a house. I barely know how to screw in a light bulb. I've never stuffed. I did stuff some envelopes when I first started, but like you don't need to like lick 1,000 envelopes to know what to have someone do that, right? That's so, you know what I mean? Like, so there are a lot of things that right from the beginning you really shouldn't be involved in.
Yeah, see, I'm still stuffing envelopes.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I was like, maybe we need to talk about this later, Danny.
Yeah, no. But this is great. So yeah, I mean, these 3 things would really change things for people. And I, like I said, I think that this point in the series of podcast episodes that I'm doing, this is perfect because it really will help people as they're setting up their marketing to always think about it the right way.
Yep.
And not just think in terms of how much can I do in one day.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
And then not having to switch hats all the time, taking the hat off to go and get busy with the other part of the business. And
yep,
just always think to avoid that as much as you can.
Yeah, have these processes in place. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys have read the book E-Myth or heard about it. Like, and you don't have to get so detailed. Like an E-Myth talks about having your operations manual, and you can get caught up in all that stuff. It's not. You don't even read the book. Just know that creating the process for these things will change everything for you. And if you look at it as we talked about the cost and realize the ROI on that cost, even a few years ago, we talked about lead generation or whatnot. It was a couple years ago, actually. I was like, I'm not really finding a lot of success making offers on the MLS, but I had this girl that worked for me that I didn't really have a whole lot for her to do. So I thought, okay, I'm paying her $12 an hour. Let's have her make offers on the MLS. And at first, I almost told her to stop because I felt like she was wasting her time. But she was getting close on a couple. And she ended up buying 3 houses over 3 months, which most people would be like, wow, she spent an entire month. Like, that was her main thing she was doing. She did a couple other side things like utilities, but her main job is to make offer after offer after offer. And most people would pull their hair out if they spend an entire month doing nothing but making offers. But I looked back at the cost of that and what that made us. And those combined deals that she got made us close to $100,000. And you know how much it cost me to pay her for those 3 months? I'm trying to think of it. I don't remember the exact amount. It's like $500.
But it was $12 an hour, right?
What's that? It was like $2,000 per month. So $6,000 to make $100,000. Pretty good numbers.
Yeah.
But yet, if we're the one doing that, how are we going to be so focused on that thing and talking to the contractors and talking to the sellers and meeting with the city and doing all this stuff that we should not be doing? Turning on utilities. Like, it's crazy.
and that is very painful. You keep saying turn on utilities, but man, I remember, I don't know that I ever did it, but I remember hearing Melissa on the phone before in the past, on hold for, like at 45 minutes just to get the freaking utilities turned on.
I have done it.
Yeah.
I will never do it again. Ever.
Yeah. I still, sometimes I hear the hold music in the other office too when other people are in here trying to do it. I'm just like, I'm glad I'm not the one waiting around for that.
So many things just take so much time. Like, you got to get out of that.
Right. So let's get into, did you have anything more to share on this topic? I know that, or we can start talking about what you've got coming up real soon.
Yeah, I guess all I want to say is, like, sometimes I'll hear people say something like, well, that, that seems hard. Or how do I, and it's like, okay. Well, number one, yes, find someone who can show you exactly how to do it. Otherwise, it'll be super hard, because why try to reinvent the wheel? But number two, it's like everything is hard. Like, if you're working a 9 to 5, or nowadays if you're working a 9 to 5, you're lucky, right? It's more like an 8 to 6 or whatever. But if you have a job, I mean, that's hard too, right? Like, life is hard. If you're gonna do something hard, why not create the process that once that process is in place, all you have to do is maintain it, and it'll give back to you exponentially whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
So I don't claim like, oh, there's nothing to it. Snap your fingers, flip the switch, and get $1 million business. No, it takes an effort. You might have to go through a couple things, or you hire someone to help you with one thing and it doesn't work out. Oh well, like your own. But if you look at it, if you have the mental mind shift of, hey, I'm not taking a couple months or a few months to just make like $10,000 and it's done. I'm taking a little bit of time to create a system, to create a machine that will give back to me forever. If you have that mindset, then you're going to be okay when you have a few struggles, when things are a little bit harder. Some of my coaching students, the bandit sign system, right? There was one guy that was complaining. He's like, I'm on like my 3rd bandit sign person. This is ridiculous. And like some other members chimed in like, oh, I'm on number 5 and they're working great, right? And so it was like, okay, are you willing to go through 3 bandit sign people who are, by the way, are super easy to train? So it's not like training an assistant that takes forever. It's like, are you willing to go through that to be a millionaire, to make $1 million? Because if you are, welcome to the club. Like, come aboard. If you're not, go back to your job. Right? Like, yeah, it's not super duper easy, but we're going to show you exactly how to do it, and know that you're going to hit some roadblocks. But I don't know anyone who's incredibly successful who has not hit roadblocks. So just recognize that's part of the process. That's why not everyone's a multimillionaire, because people are too lazy, or they get too scared or nervous, or don't want to do what it takes, or they don't want to work a month without getting paid to create a process and a business that will then get back to them forever. So you got to have that mental paradigm shift. Once you do, it's like, it's not that big a deal. But when you're going through that, or before you go through that, it's sometimes hard to recognize that. So.
Right. Absolutely. And so what I alluded to was Justin's course. What are you opening because you don't have it open all the time. You just have it where you bring on people because you're focused on getting everybody the training. We
only open it up twice a year. And I think next time we open it up may not even be for an entire year. Just because our number one goal is to focus on this community, to give the best content. And it's a lot of work to bring people on board and to promote it. So once we're done with that, once we open it up and close the doors, we just like to focus on the people in the group. So it is open, and it'll be open for 10 days, and then the doors are closed until a year from now.
Right. And a story about that too is whenever you're looking for the domain name for your course, and you found the perfect one, and someone was already taken, and you looked to see who it was, and it ended up being me, and I wasn't really doing anything with it, so that worked out pretty good for you.
Dude, miracles do happen. I swear. Like, and that is when you're grateful that you let people like Danny come stay at your house and pick your brain, right? Because I was looking for House Flipping Formula, the domain, and I was like, who has this domain? They're not using it. And it was crazy. I remember the day that I was like, oh my gosh, I think Danny has this domain. And so thank you, Danny. Danny actually gave that to us, so I was very generous.
Yeah, 1.5 million. I just gave it away for 1. I'm just kidding. It was free. No, but so that's opening up, and we have a special link for everybody listening. And just before, because I don't ever really promote people's products on here other than the software that we ourselves use and make in-house here in my business. And the reason why I do this for Justin is because I believe in everything he's doing, and I know he's got the top-notch product. And I myself found enough value to fly out there and spend time with him and learn from him. And so that's why I do that with him. And, I just 100% behind him and what he's doing and what he's teaching and helping people with. So, but you set up a link. What was that link that we talked about?
They go to houseflippingformula.com/Danny.
Right, houseflippingformula.com/Danny. And this episode will be live. It'll be Tuesday if you're hearing this, and that'll be open for people to look at and
Tuesday,
consider.
September the 13th. I should have my calendar up just to make sure. And then it's open for 10 days. So it'll be open for 10 days, and then we close the doors, and we just get to work. This is what we're calling it House Flipping Formula 4.0, because it's the 4th rendition that we've done. But basically what you get is you get everything that we've created for 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll be creating even more new content, focusing on these 3 things that we talked about. Everything this round in House Flipping Formula 4.0 is going to be focused on the 3 things and helping you, do the things that we talked about today. But you'll get number 1, 2, and 3 all archived in there as well. So once you sign up, you get access to all of that, all the coaching calls we've had, which has been well over 20, 25. Get access to everything we have, and then we continue to make new content because this business is always changing, and we are constantly finding out what is working best for us, what's working best for our students, and we just share it with everyone. We're an open book. I've been taken advantage of before in this business. I've spent a lot of money on education that wasn't that good, and I don't regret it because I made my money back 10 times. But I have seen people spend a lot of money on even worse programs, and they haven't gotten the value out of it. So our goal has been basically to create a program that has 10 times the value of any program out there at a fraction of the cost. It's kind of been my goal and my mission ever since I created the systems in my business. I remember one day I thought, I've arrived, and we were here in San Clemente and surfing and having fun, and that was fun for a few weeks, about a month maybe. And then I got really bored, and I didn't feel like I was contributing to the world, and my wife was tired of me following her around, and I just thought, we talked about it. I was like, if I could do anything, what would it be? And it would be to help other people get to where I'm at, and in a way that I didn't have. So that's what this community's been all about. Danny, I really appreciate your support, and you're in that community as well, and you've been a great part of that. And I'm like you, I don't promote very many people's stuff because most of it isn't that great, or it takes more than it gives. So yeah, I appreciate you recognizing what we're doing here.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show and sharing with everybody. And I don't think enough people share the point of view that you share, and so I just love it every time I have it on the show to talk about this point of view, to be able to do this and set yourself up to truly have the financial freedom. Everybody talks about getting into real estate investing, flipping houses so they can have the freedom, be their own boss, do what they want to do when. and they get bogged down in running this business and really build themselves another job.
Yep.
Probably a much better paying job, but it's still mostly a job. And so you've always been focused on making sure, people are building a real business. And
yeah, that's
so
what
anyway,
it's all about.
So go check it out, everybody, houseflippingformula.com/Danny, and we'll keep in touch.
Awesome. You're the man, Danny. Appreciate it. And thanks to everyone for listening. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Talk to you later.
All right.
All right, I enjoyed that one. Got a lot of information and really just that thinking and just always remembering that, that's really the goal, is to having that true freedom that we're talking about with setting up these systems and everything. That's why I like talking to Justin so much. But, and one point that I just want to reiterate in this closing to this episode is the importance of that cost per lead, cost per deal, and knowing what your return is. Because like he said, once you get that dialed in and then you just scale it, you grow it, you just put that in and get the return out, that's really what it's all about. And so you can keep an eye on that quickly and everything. But and like I said, I use my own system, REImobile, for that tracking of the cost for marketing, so that we can see which of our mailings are producing, which of the online work that we're doing is producing the best results, and the cost per lead, and then cost per deal, of course, is the more important one, because you can get a lot of leads from one marketing source and feel like you're doing great, but if you're only converting a smaller percentage of those versus something else that's not generating as many leads but you're getting more deals from, obviously you want to crank up the one where you're getting more deals and not just the one with more leads. So that's very important. And the other thing was, increasing that profit. So growing a buyer's list to take advantage of, those deals that you're, not doing, that don't fit your criteria, that don't fit your business model, your flipping model. If you're doing rehabbing and they're not houses that would be good to retail once you finish fixing them up, you can wholesale them and stuff like that. So, definitely want to get like a wholesaling website, and we provide those with Lead Propeller. Wholesaling website where you can build your buyer's list easily with a pre-made site that's already very simple to set up, and build that email buyer's list with all the investors' criteria of what they're looking for. That's exactly why we built that. And so if you're in San Antonio, you can actually opt in to be an investor buyer of mine, of the wholesale deals that I do. If you go to cheapsanantoniohouses.com, you can see what one of those sites look like. That's actually my site for wholesaling some of our deals, and then building that buyer's list. So if you want to be on that buyer's list, just opt in there, and you'll be added to it. So simple as that. Everybody have a great week. We'll be back next week with some more great marketing tips to get more leads and deals for your house flipping business. Thanks a lot for listening to the Flipping Junkie podcast. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and leave a rating and review if you would. I really do appreciate that. And we're doing some promotional stuff from time to time on Facebook. So if you go to facebook.com/flippingjunkie, you can ask questions there and see some of the promotional stuff, get discounts on some of the software, etc. So have a great week. Talk to you next time.